Chris DeBoard here for the Dirt Drop, taking a chance to be able to thank our sponsors for making this program possible. First, we do want to shout out Stage Wheels. Bill over at Stage is kind enough to be able to provide the Dirt Drop with not only support for the Toolworks racing program, the Dirt Drop podcast, but also has a discount code for anyone who wants to be able to purchase products on their website. Make sure to check out the description in this video for the code, the Dirt Drop, to be able to add for a discount on your next order. They ship wheels and merchandise out of Richmond, Virginia. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram at Stage Wheels and also on their website, www.stagewheelsna.com. Next, we want to be able to thank Velocita USA out of North Carolina for all of their support they do, again, for the Toolworks Racing program and the Dirt Drop podcast. They offer racing equipment from head to toe for all your safety apparel, custom pit t-shirts, and so much more. Make sure to check them out at velocita-usa.com or on their social medias, Velocita USA, Facebook, and Instagram. When you go to order, make sure to use the code TDD10, that's TDD10, for 10% off all Velocita branded products on their website. Last but certainly not least, wrapped in our Stage Wheels is Zek Nova Tires. Thank you to Luis Lands out of Florida with distribution in Chicago, greater metro area, and Toolworks also does support in the Richmond and Mid-Atlantic area for distribution as well. If you have any questions about the products Zeknova offers, be able to check them out as well. Zeknova US on Facebook and Instagram, as well as www.zeknovaus.com. Now, let's get into our show. Enough about the sponsors. Let's get into the guest. He is a gentleman that you have known for probably the last 2 decades in drifting, but the last decade, he has been the owner and sole proprietor of one of the most influential photography brands in our sport. He also recently has become a driver, so we're going to be able to talk about that. And I guarantee you're going to want to hear about a photographer's perspective if you're a new and upcoming drifter and what to do to be able to make sure you get those shots. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome my guest, Mr. Barry Allen.
What's up, Chris?
Barry, again, thank you so much for taking time out. I really am excited about doing this because you're kind of on a different plane than a lot of my other guests as far as the driving perspective. You bring a whole nother insight to this motorsport that's not driving related, but we'll get more into that. I have a simple question. Who is Barry Allen?
So technically, Barry Allen is my first and middle name. My full name is Barry Margatish, but just cutting out that last name saves a lot of time and a lot of explanation and people not even knowing how to pronounce it anyway. So it was just easier and smarter to just cut it down and go with Barry Allen. Plus, everyone seems to just relate with the Flash when it comes to like stuff like that. So it just tied right in with the photography thing. And I just went with it. It just works.
Well, when I see the logo that's on your shirt, obviously you are the owner of Digital Adrenaline. It is a heartbeat, but if you look at it really quickly, you can kind of see a zigzag if you look at it sideways.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about Digital Adrenaline? Obviously, it's a well-known brand, and some people may never be able to put a face to the brand till now. So let's hear more about that.
So it just all started back in 2015. I just got the itch rather for getting on the other side of a fence. I've been going to drift events since 2005, so I was always out there. I started at Englishtown, so that was just kind of my home.
Wow.
And just after years and years of going, I just always used my phone, and I would always just, the fence was just always in the way and kind of my bane of existence. And it just so happened that for my birthday, I ended up getting a camera and started out with a Nikon D5300, which I actually still have. And
wow.
I just went for it and hit up Club Loose and pretty much asked them how I could get involved in being media. And that was just it. I just had to ask. And they just sent me over the form to fill out. And then I just put on a vest and I got to go check it out.
I mean, I love that you're succincting this and making this very simplified. There's obviously a big jump if you waited 10 years to be able to create a marketing company or a digital multimedia company into when you started. What was the big thing, like, before Digital Adrenaline, that really pushed you to want to take this photography element of drifting and motorsports seriously, and then want to get on that other side of the fence?
So I was always a driver. Like I got my FDRX7 when I was 18. So that was kind of like what really sparked drifting for me. That was what I wanted to be my drift car. And then I realized how everyone just crashes, wrecks their cars, and they all get destroyed. But the RX-7 was my baby. So it's just like, okay, maybe it's not the smartest thing to get into drifting with, but the car is an animal. Like, I built it back. We're talking 2005, like back
Hmm.
then. So the car had 550 wheel horsepower back then, which was a animal
What?
and would have been a whole lot for drifting. So it was just
Oh my
then
God.
that like I realized I should probably take a smaller step into getting involved in drifting instead of just jumping in with the FD and driving. And I was constantly taking pictures. I would take 1,000 pictures a month of just my cars. So it's just one of those things where I was just like, I feel like I should get into drifting as media and then go from there. And really, I just wanted to be like become a good photographer and show the world how cool drifting was. Because it was just one of those things like I was always an adrenaline junkie. That's where the adrenaline came from. And it was just one of those things where it wasn't really broadcasted a whole lot back then. So I just wanted to do my part into showing people what drifting was about that probably didn't have a drift track near them or were never at an event or were never like introduced to drifting. So I just wanted to show them what it was all about the best I could.
I mean, that's a huge task to take on, especially because you have a really awesome JDM legend, the FDRX7, but then also that kind of insight to be able, like, you know what, let's take a couple steps back, let's do this a different way, and I guess do it your way without having to make too many mistakes. But I mean, there are some mistakes that are made. Everyone kind of, trips on their own feet going in. What were some of the struggles that once you made that transition across the fence with a vest on, what were some of the things that you really found as like hardships that were like, oh crap, I didn't think about this when you're talking about shooting content?
The first thing was like trying to take photos of the cars moving at 40, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, where I had been taking still photos of my cars, like getting out and taking pictures of my cars, and then just jumping into it and realizing that now I had to try and get these crazy colored cars with cool wheels and stickers all over them in focus, but also while they're 60 miles an hour on a wall. So that was probably my biggest like learning curve of figuring out how to like just get the shots that I had in my head that I wanted to show to people.
Well, do you think it's also individualistic? That's a six-syllable word to your photography style. I've personally been able to contact myself with a lot more photographers lately because I'm curious about the other side of it. Everyone has their own style. No one has the same kind of camera settings. Just like no two S13s have the same suspension settings. What
Right.
would you say you describe your style as, and how did you have to like make that shift from static to moving vehicles to kind of suit what you do properly?
So my cheat sheet that I've never even admitted this out loud, but one of the things is when I line the pool noodles up at Englishtown along the wall, that was not for the drivers to hit them on purpose. That was actually for me to have a spot where I would like give the driver somewhere to aim for, and I would aim there, like where the noodle was, so that I could just pay close attention to how I could focus on the car while they were going to where I was helping predict where they were going to go by using the noodles. So it's just kind of baiting them in to get the shot I wanted. And it just turned into a whole different thing with drivers. Just, it turned into a game, really.
Well, I mean, the noodle is always the focus point. Guys, don't forget that. That lesson is very important throughout life. But realistically, though, it obviously started somewhere, and the hitting the pool noodles has become a whole new thing now. We're in 2025. I know Evergreen does something with pumpkins
Yep.
instead of pool noodles, and E Town. There's two sections of pool noodles now on the Big Bank curve when it comes to Gambler. I mean, it's a badge of honor if you can ride a wall ride and just lay out these pool noodles. Is this something that you still use as what I would like to call a focus point, or is it now maybe you've graduated into and maybe something else that's a current challenge?
So it's not so much like a focus point for me, but more so a focus point for the drivers because it became such a thing that I actually created, like designed and created my own sticker, the Noodle Master sticker, that whenever the drivers hit the noodles, they get a free sticker. And it's like you'd be
Oh,
amazed how many people are willing to total their cars for a free sticker. Like it's wild that that's what it became, but it just works. So if you ever go to Englishtown and walk around the pits, you were guaranteed to see at least 10, 20 Digital Adrenaline Noodle Master stickers on these guys'
oh,
windshields, or a lot of them put them on their quarter windows so that they can get them again when they come through. Because I like taking the slow mo videos of them hitting all the noodles, and then
right.
that's what they get posted. So like Tim Frito Wilson probably has like 10 on
Ah,
his car
Frito!
because he is just a noodle master of the highest regard when it comes to Englishtown, because he knows that when he sees the noodles there that I'm there, and to just put the car on the wall because he's going to get some gnarly videos from it.
The amount of zero F's given he drives that blue E36 with, and the progression
Yep.
that car made. I remember him when he had the blue 2002. And then he had he's rocked the Corvette. But when he gets in that car, especially once he turboed it, I mean, it became a killer for guys like Chelsea, Rich Whiteman, even Christian going up there in his Z. I mean, that car is a menace. So shout out to Tim Frito Wilson. You really, sir, my hat off to you. But yeah, you talked about growth and going into this next thing now. Let's talk about digital adrenaline. It's EST 2015. What made you want to start this photography company, and what are some of the things that have helped you not only grow but also learn along the way when it comes to drifting?
It was just like I first I started the Instagram page for it, and just it probably took me months to just decide on a name. And it was just as simple as me being an adrenaline junkie and then posting digital photos and videos and then just meshing those things together and turning it into digital adrenaline. So, like, a bunch of people at first thought it was stupid and said it wouldn't work and this and that. I just didn't care. It was just what I wanted. It was just in my head that it worked for me, and that's all that mattered. So like, it was a slow start. I probably didn't even hit 1,000 followers for 3, 4 years. So it was,
Wow.
and I treated it like, I mentally tried to treat it like everyone's favorite TV show. Like you go home and you want to like see the next episode and see what's like the newest thing. So every day, it was just my thing to just every day post something drifting, and it was just every day of just posting whatever I could think of that I thought was cool, and would just hope that the world saw it, found it, and thought it was cool themselves.
No, and I mean the proof is in the pudding, because especially with collaboration of reels and the way stuff, algorithms have started to be able to happen. Your content has really made a huge resurgence. Not I wouldn't count this year, but to like or I'm sorry, 20 to like 2022. There's a lot of old digital adrenaline stuff that started coming up in my algorithms, at least, that like stuff I'd never seen before. And yeah, we were all scrolling during the pandemic and everything, but you also made some leaps and bounds like right before that and then right after the pandemic. Can you care to talk about that and how that helped grow your mindset and even push yourself?
So I just went out of my way to try and post angles that other people weren't getting or weren't showing or anything like that. So I just wanted to be a different type of content creator than most people saw. And I've always been a gamer. So a lot of my like inspiration and stuff like that is from Forza, Gran Turismo, and just like random views that you could see in video games but didn't see in real life. So that's like where my rooftop view with the swivel mounts and stuff like that, that's where that came from. And just constantly trying to think of ways to just show the like how intense drifting was and not just like how cool it was, but also just like how absolutely crazy that the drivers were for doing it, and just make it cool to watch. It was my whole premise for creating content and building digital adrenaline into what it's become.
What would you say are probably your three favorite accomplishments since founding Digital Adrenaline? As far as it could be, a video that got massively went viral, a driver that went and shared your stuff, or something that you shot that you thought was this is my favorite thing, and I don't care if it gets any kind of likes. Or what are the three moments that define Digital Adrenaline for you?
I'd say probably the one that like that really blew my page up, and I think I ended up getting like 20 to 30,000 followers from, was the Good as New video with Eric Medici from Brazil. He rented a car and he came to Englishtown, and his first time driving in New Jersey, and rented a car from his buddy Bruno and from BR Drift Force. And he went out, and I was up on the wall, and he literally, it was probably the first time that I've ever seen a driver initiate before the Englishtown banner, put the back of the car on the wall, and just rode the entire wall all the way down past me. And full speed, didn't let out, didn't handbrake. Like it was just one of the craziest moments. He buckled in the corner of the car, like at the end of the wall, just from like just the G's going into it.
Yeah.
And then I happened to go down the pit, like pit lane, where he was fixing the car and kicking the back of the like inside the trunk out. And when he did it, and like the car just folded perfectly back, and I just happened to say "good as new," and it was just blew up. It was like 17 million views in a week. Like it was just absurd
What?
of video, like something you'd never even expect. Because like I was just standing there next to him, like holding my phone, like it wasn't even anything crazy, and it was just right place, right time on both. Like when I was up on the wall to get that, and then down on the pit lane to get that good as new clip, which he already had a massive following from Brazil. So I think a lot of that carried over, and just that's how a lot of the people found me. But it got shared like crazy. I think it got shared like 500,000 times. So
Oh
that was
my
like that
god.
was one of the craziest. Like my phone would just overheat constantly just because it was just going off and off and off. It never stopped.
Gosh. All right. Okay. So that's one. What are the other two?
So I'd say another was when Englishtown Gambler, or the New Jersey FD track. So the
Hmm.
figure eight, before that was even an FD track, I was there at a Club Loose event, and it was just one of those moments, right place, right time. And I was friends with Chris Knapp. So I was just hanging out, and he happened to come up, tap me on the shoulder, and say, hey, during the next A group session, don't go out to grid. You're going to come with me over to the new track. And I was just like, the new track? Like, what do you mean? And he's just like, you'll see what I'm talking about. And so I had no idea what we were doing. And when the A group started rolling out, he grabbed me. I went over and hopped in with, I think it was, I want to say Kenrick Meyer or one of those guys, but it was like 8 drivers that went over. Ricky Hoffman was one of the first ones that drove it. Um, Gary Lewis was one of the first ones that drove it. It was like OG Club Loose drivers that
And
got
some
to see it and
heavy
drive it for the
hitters.
first time.
Heavy hitters.
So like we go over there, none of us knew what was even going on, and then we get over there, and he's like, "Well, here you go. This is gonna be the new uh, track for Formula Drift, but we can't post about it. You can't tell anyone about it. This is top secret." And we had to keep this stuff silent for months. But I was the
Oh
first
my
one to go
God.
over there as media and get a ton of content for Chris to send to Formula Drift and other companies and stuff like that to show them what it was all about. So that was probably like top tier, one of the coolest things that I've gotten to experience in drifting ever was just being able to be the guy that had all this content. I was putting GoPros on cars, I was shooting exterior videos and just got it all. And so there were like moments where he would let me share like 3-second clips, but I couldn't show the track or the layout or anything else. So like a few of those went absolutely absurdly wild because of just all the hype behind it. Nobody
Right.
knew what was actually coming other than that there was a new track at New Jersey. And
So
so there were a couple where, like, one of them that was another that I think hit like 1 million views was just 2 cars coming out from underneath of the like grandstand where they go through the tunnel. And it was literally just that. Like, I was standing at the end of the tunnel, they just go by me and then cut, and it just reset. And that just went wild because everybody was just like, wait, that's the drag strip. What are you guys doing at the Englishtown drag strip with drift cars? And so it sparked a whole lot of controversy with the drag strip guys because to them, the drag strip got shut down, but there was a big story behind that too, because it wasn't like it just got shut down by the naps. There was a company that bought the drag strip, but they fought to get that portion of the track back so that they could keep that alive. So
mhm.
there was just a lot more to it than met the eye. So a lot of people were mad about it. A lot of people were excited, but it was just like the clash of the two made it just absolutely explode anytime anyone talked about it. So it was just really, really cool to be a part of that and to see like everything grow from one day of just an hour of just no prep, no game plan, no nothing. Like I had no idea. I had to just think on my feet on what shots I wanted to get and stuff like that. And I just got everything that I possibly could and just made whatever I could whenever I could and sent it over to them. And that's the stuff that got sent to Formula Drift. And that Formula Drift ended up signing on that track to be one of their new layouts.
So let me get this straight. Were there any other official media allowed over during that session?
I think it was me and then I believe 2 others. I want to say Tyler Novatin was over there, but I don't know who else would have been over there. Maybe James Graves. But those 2 guys were doing photos. So I was, to my knowledge, I was the only video guy.
So it's safe to say that the content that you produced, the content that you were able to capture and then send to all these outlets, Formula Drift, sponsors, event organizers, you just as much as the Naps helped show why drifting needs to come back to New Jersey. Is that safe to say?
Yep.
I know it's crazy, but like
No, and that's why it's literally like probably one of my favorite moments ever. Is just knowing that I had such a big part, like big role in that becoming what it's become today. And just knowing that, like, they're the ones that kept it alive over there, and I was able to help them make that dream come true.
Dude, that is absolutely beautiful. And again, thank you for being able to do that. FD Englishtown is probably one of the rowdiest events, just because of the intensity, the proximity, and just the environment, especially with Club Loose being there, the Pro Bro Down on Sunday. Like it's a party weekend, no doubt.
Yeah, it
Um,
was awesome because it was the first that, at least that I know of, the first purpose-built drift track that was built solely for drifting. Like all the other tracks everywhere have always been like it started out as a kart racing track, or it started out as a time attack, a road racing track, stuff like that, and it evolved into drifting. But the figure eight was built in mind 100% for tandem competition drifting. And it shows anytime that they have FD or a gambler event there, it's absolutely wild. Like it's probably top three, one of my favorite venues to ever go to do media, even though it's such a simple concept. It's just a figure eight, but there's so much to it. There's walls everywhere. When you enter into turn one, like from the outside looking in, it doesn't look that crazy. When you get into a car and then go around the track, it's a whole different point of view because when you enter on the turn one, you're looking at the wall, and then you look at turn two and you can't even see it because the center of the track crests up just enough that you that's a blind spot over whether it's inner clip or the outer wall on turn two. So it makes it that much more intense, especially as like car two chasing. You're just going completely blind, trusting the lead car to be where they're supposed to be so that you can follow them into the next zone. And it's just nonstop craziness because it's just everyone is trying to just be on everyone's door from the second they leave the line to the second they're crossing the finish. Where a lot of the other ones, it's like there's a build up to like entry and stuff like that. And then you can see turn two and kind of get an idea of where you're going to be. But at Englishtown, it's really just a crapshoot. Like you really just got to trust that the lead car is going to be where they're supposed to be or not put their car if they're going to go into a wall. A lot of times, car two is going to go into the wall with them because you're trying to be right there with them, but there's walls everywhere. So it's such an intense track, and I always get some of the best videos there just because of all the chase camera stuff that I do. And they're always just neck and neck trying to just take each other down. So it's really cool. And also, just every time I go there, I just think about that first day that I was there.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't seen videos of FD Englishtown, the pro stuff, even some of the gambler videos, those walls will turn cars into crumpled up Dr. Pepper cans real quick. And the only time I am not like on the edge of my seat is that drag race when they're coming out under the timing tower. Everywhere else, I'm like, at that transition at the inner clipping point after the second big, like, I mean, it's wonderful. Plus, Englishtown has one of the only opportunities to be literally on the car's nose with their media boxes and
Yep.
their positions to be able to be not only protected but closer than any other event that I'm aware of that Formula Drift currently offers. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I've done media at FD for 3 years, and every event you're pretty much like there's a large safety barrier when it comes to most tracks. Like even Orlando is a similar type of layout, but you're pretty far away from danger when it comes to how far the cars are. So you still need a pretty good lens to be able to shoot those events. But when you're at Englishtown, they're literally in your face. Like it's either they're against the wall and they're still only 30 feet away from you, or they take the turn two inside and they are literally like close enough that you could almost touch them. And like, it's just wild to be able to be in those boxes too with all that craziness going on. And plus, the cool thing is when it's not like St. Louis, they go by and they're gone. Like once they go, they're gone. Englishtown, they go by and then they come back around again. So like you have the opportunity to not only shoot the entire run, but you can also just pick and choose. You can shoot as they're coming at you, when they're in front of you, when they go by you, or when they come back around and are coming back to you again. Like it's just one of the coolest events, at least from a media aspect. But not only that, but they're also one of the only ones that have stands that are literally right there on the track side too, where you can sit on either side of the track. I want to say there's 28,000 seats, so they fit
Wow, I didn't know there
a
were that many.
large follow, like a large group of people that are able to enjoy the entire event too, and not just like have a bunch of blind spots or anything like that. Like Utah, you go out there, it's such a large, high speed track. You kind of have to think about where you want to be because you're either going to see them when they're coming in at entry really fast and then you don't see them again, or you can see them like from the middle, but you kind of get lost in their smoke towards the end, or you can be all the way down to bottom, but then you
Right.
miss the like 70% of the run up until they're down at the bottom of the hill. So it's just one of those things where you just kind of haven't got to have an idea of what you're trying to accomplish as media and like what type of shot that you want is really the thing there. But with Jersey, I mean, there, there's not a bad spot in the house. You can literally be in either of the media boxes. You can be on grid. You can still see the whole everything happening from grid. And then there's also like the spots at the back corner of the track by the fence where they have holes in the fence where even spectators get to pretty much be media and can get their own shots right there, and they're just as good as anywhere else.
That is insane. You brought up a couple of points I'm going to touch on later, but I don't want to step on this. What is the last thing that you think is really defining for digital adrenaline? Is like the moment that really kind of made you know you made it.
I'd probably say when I teamed up with Swivel Mount and we pretty much just worked together. So it was it started out as a two magnet, just regular mount that they used on a skid pad. And the moment that they sent it to me, I used it on the Englishtown road course, and it came back and it almost slid off the roof of the car after one lap because they're going 70, 80 miles an hour into entry, which they never tested. They never knew that that was going to happen. To them, it was flawless on a skid pad. It never slid around on the roof or anything like that. But when it got to those high speeds, or like the one guy tapped the wall and it pretty much came off its roof, that I had to tell them, like, we got to come up with a new, better design and something that's going to be more structurally sound at speed so that I can use these things without having to worry about losing one or two because they fit two GoPros. And at the time, they were 350, $400, sometimes $500, depending on the GoPro. And I would lose them. So it was just one of those things that I worked with them to help them design the three magnet mount. And that was kind of like what really sparked everything, just because that also put me closer to all these drivers. So I got to be right alongside Chelsea Denofa, Vaughn Gittin, Forrest Wang, Jeff Stoneback, like all of the top names in the sport. And it kind of like brought me out of my shell. Like it forced me out of my shell really to like start interacting with the drivers closer, more intently, and like just it helped build relationships just because I had to constantly be there putting GoPros on the roof. And so it was just one of those things like that blew up both my page, everything that I do, and Swivel Mount, and like got them the exposure they needed to keep going. And it also just helped me be able to sign deals with drivers that would hire me for events and like actually started paying me to come out to events for them because of that stuff. So like Christian Nelson was the first driver to hire me for FD. So that's what got me into Formula Drift. And while I was doing that, Rich Whiteman was the other one that also hired me for Formula Drift. So it's like that stuff because they wanted those angles. They wanted to be able to see how they were doing because there's kind of a two-part to it where it's not just about the video, but after the run, we could pull it up right afterwards as they were still sitting in their car and be like, look, you missed outer zone one, you got interclip two, and then you got outer zone three. We got to really get you onto that outer zone one. And then because they could see that real time, literally minutes after it happened, they all became such better drivers from it. And it turned into its own thing there that drivers would want that part of what I do almost more than having an intense chase video. Like Tommy Lemaire, for example, hired me for FD because it helped him understand where he was putting the car. He could see how far away he was from the lead driver with my cameras on his roof facing backwards. He could see how much faster he was than the chase driver. He could see if they were running him down and if he had to go faster, they could make those changes in the pit to make the car faster
Right.
and give him that little bit of edge to become a better driver, which he just happened to win the Prospect Championship last year. But that was all like we would get back in. I would have an interior camera inside the car. I would have cameras on its roof. I would have cameras inside the wheel wells. So if there was ever an issue where he felt like there was a car, like the car was binding up anywhere, we could just pull that footage like that and he could see, okay, well, let's check this tie rod. And then they would go and look and be like, okay, the tie rod's bent and be able to change that right on the fly without having to guess and change a whole bunch of stuff on the car that may not actually be the issue. So I would have to say that just those magnet mounts were probably a big part of it because I didn't have to fumble around with suction cups, worry about suction cups coming off. Like the magnets are so strong, I can literally just plunk it anywhere. I can
Yeah.
stick it to the inside of the frame on the wheel well. They've been hit by the tires and they just hang on. Like it's just crazy. And it helped with speed too. So like one of my things is I never wanted to take away time from the drivers. Like every minute counts. They pay money. They pay money to be out there too. So I don't want to take up their time by me putting a camera on with suction cups and stuff like that and waste their time. Like 5 minutes could be a lap or two. So the magnets are just a simple boop right on the roof. You're ready to go. And so like a lot of them just realized how fast and how much quicker I could be than the typical GoPro media guy that would be putting them on with clamps or anything else, which takes a lot of time. But those magnets were just a game changer when it came to that.
Yeah, no, if you guys are not familiar with the digital adrenaline swivel mount footage from the Gamblers or really any Club Loose event where there's a tandem competition, some of the smoothest footage. I don't think you have to do a lot of editing
Nope,
because, like
and
you
that was
said,
a big part of it too.
with the double camera and with the effectiveness of that thing, and then you've got that guide fin, that shark fin on the back, I call it, to kind of make sure that it's doing its thing. Uh, at the end, he'll plug his socials, but you need to see how beautiful this footage is, and you'll see why all these pro drivers pay money to make sure it's part of their program. The big thing you talked about when you were going about the FD jersey stuff was the media being in the boxes and then media being at different locations. Drifters are a community. We're talking about newer drifters coming in, going to events, trying to, get with bros and stuff. Photographers are a different breed. They they seem to operate a little bit differently than the drivers do. Can you kind of give us an insight on the photographer's mind and what it's like to be in not just the FD, spec or the photographer box, but in a group of photographers at, like, say, a grassroots event?
So the cool thing about like the media side of it is everyone's there, like everyone wants to get the best, the coolest shot and stuff like that, but all the photographers and media and everybody there love drifting. Like it's just everyone has that in common where we're all there enjoying every single minute of it, like what we're doing. Like it's not, no one dreads being there. Like, I mean, the only time is like when it's downpouring and stuff like that, but there's nothing really you can do then but to just tough it out. But when you're in a group like, say, New Jersey, because you're in a 15 by 15 box. I don't know how exactly big it is, but you could be in there with 5, 10, 15 other photographers that you've never met. And some of them are from across the country, some of them are from around the world, and you just never know who you're going to meet. And a lot of times, like, I, that's how I got to meet like Larry Chen and stuff like that, is just being side by side with him. And it's just like moments that you wouldn't expect to happen. So one that sticks out in my mind is St. Louis. Is I wanted a shot like I had in my mind that it's St. Louis. First thing that comes to your mind when you think of St. Louis is the arch. So it's like, how can I get the arch in my shot at FD St. Louis? And there is just
Ooh.
one spot, and it was a box about this big that was underneath of a speaker that I just happened to find this opening, and I was shooting through it, and I was getting all the drivers coming through entry side by side. I have a print on my wall of Steve Miskill and Mike Power, literally door to door. It's our favorite shot. We still, all three of us talk about it all the time. And I didn't even know, but Larry Chen was over my shoulder. And like after they went by the one time, he just stopped me and he's like, "What are you even shooting?" He's like, "I've never even seen anyone shoot there." And it's just like to hear someone like Larry say that, first of all, is just cool in itself because he is absolutely everywhere. When you go to any track, he gets every shot from every angle that you can even imagine. So to be like somewhere that he never even thought of himself was really cool. So the one time he was just like, "Can I borrow your camera and just shoot that?" And it was just an unreal moment of like, yeah, gladly, like take my camera and have at it. And then he was just like so grateful that he got to like learn that spot himself too. And it's just like you never know when something like that could happen. And like now, whenever we're like passing each other or anything like that, he recognizes me from 100 yards away, which is like just crazy. But he's a normal guy. Like once you get to know him, he's just super famous from being promoted by all these like drivers, companies, FD, and everything else. But a lot of people are like, I guess, afraid to just go out of their way to like introduce themselves to people like that. Like a lot of times people come up to me and are like, "Oh my God, like it's Digital General." And I'm just like, "What's up?" Like, I'm just me. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, I'll sit
Right.
here, I'll talk to you about drifting. Like, I don't care. Like, I've been to like, when I've gone to Orlando, there's random people, like spectators, that would literally stand behind me, not even watching like the drifting, because I would be in like crazy media spots. They would be standing behind me, waiting for me to stop just to say hi. And it's like one of those things where it's like, me? Like, what do you mean? Like, we're here to watch drifting. Like, what about me? And it's just like, I never thought it would get to the point where I would be recognized like that. You know what I mean? So
Well,
like
to
it's
clarify,
cool.
I don't think some people like because we've been talking about a lot of drifters on this show, and we haven't really been talking about some of the other facilitators, whether it be FD or motorsports group. Larry Chen is to photography for drifting, as I'm bold enough to say James Dean is to drifting for drifting.
Right. I would
I mean,
agree.
he is the official Formula Drift photographer. He is the photographer for, I believe, Toyota Racing, TRD
Yep.
Motors or TRD Operations. He has shot Toyota commercials. Um,
Yep.
he goes to Japan. He was at recently at TAS, Tokyo Auto Salon, and I mean, the stuff
Yeah,
he worked with Adam LZ. I mean, good God, the name goes on and on and on.
yep, he shoots for Canon. So like he got flown out to Japan to like do a presentation at Canon, like to their like higher ups and their executives just about what he does. So like to him, that was like absolutely insane because to him he's just like a normal dude that just likes taking photos of drift cars. And it just turned into something a whole just something he never expected, and just you never know. Like, and it's just it could be one photo, it could be one video that just goes absolutely wild and just makes everything that change overnight. And that's kind of like what happened for me. So to me, I'm still just Barry Allen. Like I don't know. I just see myself as a normal person, but I was driving out to Grid Life in Michigan, and I was at a rest stop, and I literally had a random person come up to me when I was putting gas in the car, and just like, "Are you digital adrenaline?" I'm like, I'm not even wearing anything of mine. I'm like, how did like, yeah, but how, like, how do you even know that? And it's just like stuff you would never expect, but it's just so cool, like having moments like that even happen. And it just makes you realize like how big this stuff can be and that you never know who you're going to meet along the way.
Yeah, yeah. The last time somebody asked if I was Chris DeBoard at a gas station, I got a warrant. So I mean, like, it's you really never know what's
That's,
going to happen in public.
yep.
But so obviously you grew in digital adrenaline. We've talked about your stuff in FD. I think that social media has shifted with the pandemic and just us being so glued to the algorithm, and obviously with the major platforms TikTok, IG, Facebook, and YouTube. Can't forget about YouTube. 3 to 5 years, if you can kind of agree with me on that. In the last 3 to 5 years, media and drifting has really changed the trajectory of a lot of drifters, a lot of photographers, and then just a lot of the way that people self promote and stuff like that. So, what would you say for grassroots drifters? What would you say are some important things when it comes to dealing with media guys that may work in their favor that they may not even know is a thing to be able to help build their content?
So I think the biggest shift that's happening, like even right now, is yes, everyone wants to see the action shots and all the cool parts of drifting, but if you pay attention to the ones that are getting all the big sponsor deals that are like getting paid to go to events and stuff like that, they're more personality driven. So a lot of it is to be able to combine the driving aspect also with being a outgoing person that is showing off what drifting has to offer, or at least spreading like what companies do for drifting that people may not realize and stuff like that. That to some people it's just a name on a car, but to those drivers, they're the reason that they get to drive. So the ones that are doing the best and that are getting paid to drive, or like just it's I'd say a little bit better off for them, like easier for them to do, is they're better at being a person behind the camera. So I would say like as drivers, if you're looking for anything like to grow yourself as like into motorsports and become something at least bigger or more professional, that it's a big part of it is being able to be a personality and show and speak like on behalf of the companies that are sending you out to these places and stuff like that, which I'm currently working on getting better myself. I've already got the action side of everything pretty nailed down. So now I've been trying to force myself to be on this side of the camera and try and just explain things better that other people that may not understand drifting would just, it helps them to get the picture, like the bigger picture of everything better. And then it's more engaging. It feels more personal, like that they can become your fan instead of just a follower. You know what I mean?
Well, some drifters are not exactly savvy behind the camera. We were talking about some of the terms before we got on here, just so I could kind of make sure I'm not going to fumble over all of your technical jargon and look like a big dummy. But what are some tips you can give some grassroots drivers who maybe they've gone to this track and they've never really talked to a media guy or gal or just anyone who's able to give them content? What are some tips they can do to approach a media person properly and in the right way, and that could kind of help them? Like, Chris shows up in his stock G35. Oh man, that's dead to adrenaline. How can I approach Barry to be able to make sure we build a positive relationship, and you want to be able to help me, grow my content and show me what you can do for me too?
Just big, cool, good person. Like there's no trick to it. There's no nothing. Just put yourself out there. There's no like what are we gonna say? No, like just don't take anything personal. A lot of times, like I'm running around grid like a maniac, so a lot of times I don't have the time to just like stand around and talk to someone. But if someone is like understanding, knows that I'm a busy person, that I'm already trying to get 500 videos a day, that like they'll just pull me to the side, like, hey Barry, I love your stuff. I would love to get like me in your videos. How can we go about doing that? And then just set up a time for me like to go talk to them in the pits or whatever, or even like if I'm running around and I'm not stopping, a lot of the guys will just like grab a water from in their car or in their pit, or have one of their like pit crew guys just bring me a water. I'm gonna remember that, you know what I mean? Like, so just little things to stand out are always going to help. I mean, also having cool cars is going to help. Um, not like if you show up without having bumpers to every event for a year and having six different colors of car, you're probably not going to get the same media content that the guys that are leaving an event and painting their car on the weekend, putting new wheels on it, putting a new body kit on it, and making the effort to make the car look cool. They're the guys that media are going to go after because it's going to look better in videos. They show that they are driven, that they're motivated, and it's an overall like a better look for both parties as far as the photographer or videographer and also the driver. And companies see that and will want to be a part of that. So it's just one of those things where that's an easy way to just get better media, is to just take care of the car. Like, yes, I absolutely love Frito and like how much he just destroys the car every lap. He's an amazing person. So like, no, the car may not look perfect at every event, but he is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. If you look like you're hungry, he's gonna go buy you a sandwich. Like, it's just like the small things that some people wouldn't think about, but a lot of times I don't have 5, 10 minutes to go stand at a concession stand and go get a drink or get something to eat, where he'll just go to the pits, change his tires, grab something for me to eat, and just bring it out to grid and be like, no, sit down, like enjoy this, and then come like put your camera on my car. And like it's just guys like that that will always stand out. And it's it could just be a water bottle. Like it doesn't have to be that crazy. And just something like that will always just stick out in my mind. And I will go the extra step to make sure that I'm making them look cool. Or later on, like if I see a driver is like having a bad day, that I can just go in my stash of content, make something real quick and send it to them. And you never know. A lot of times those guys will hire you for a full season just from one video. So it's just like just paying attention to the small stuff and not being afraid to just go up and talk to somebody. Like that's probably the biggest part is a lot of drivers are like I like don't want to like be told no, or they feel like they're going to be in the way or taking away their like your time. But it's like you never know what type of relationship you can build just from saying what's up and being a good person and not just having a cool car or being a good driver and stuff like that. But
No, being a good person is just the succinct way of understanding the drift community, just who we need to be overall. And to piggyback on that, there's a flip side of that coin. What is one thing that you see a lot of grassroots drivers? I have a very, very good idea. What is one thing that you see a lot of grassroots drivers actively do in the last couple of years that really puts them off, or I'm sorry, puts media individuals off from wanting to help them, wanting to shoot their cars? Or, I mean, you talk about the bumpers and colors. We all kind of got that idea, but there has to be something that, like, when you see it automatically, it's like, I have no desire to help you or want to be able to make you look
I would probably say like attitude is everything when it comes to stuff like that. So if a driver is cursing up a storm or talking trash on a grid worker who's just out there trying to just make sure things run smoothly and like the driver is just throwing a fit in their car, just complaining about how long it's taking, but not realizing that like there's 30, 40 other cars that they're trying to manage. Like there's way more than just you. That like that's something that just to me sticks out as like, okay, maybe I don't want to help this guy who's like talking smack on the person who's literally running the event or something like
right.
that. And it like I'll take photos and videos of missile cars all day long if you're a good person. I don't care about that. But it's just like you could have the coolest car on the grid, and if you're acting like a punk, I'll walk right by you. You know what I mean? Like it's just I'd rather show off the good people in drifting than like the coolest cars and stuff like that when it comes to things of that nature.
It's like, welcome to Monday Night Raw, the featured move, the digital adrenaline cold shoulder. Like,
Yep.
obviously, drifting, we learn by doing donuts, we learn by doing burnouts, we learn by doing figure eights. The photography does, and I mean, the clinic days are also a huge thing. East Coast Drift School, Chris Knapp, Reese
Yep.
Marin, he has a great program. I haven't, now again, I'm a little sheltered in this industry. I haven't noticed any drift photography clinics or motorsports photography clinic days or programs. Is this something that's even offered, or is this something that you think may be a niche that needs to be filled by some industry professionals?
I actually love the idea of that. That it is not something that is openly talked about. I mean, the closest thing is probably like me and a few buddies just end up making group chats, and then we'll just share what we get to each other and get feedback from each other before we go posting it online or something like that. And to also like, you also don't know, you can't get every angle, every track every time you go. So a lot of times, like, I have my select few media homies that also like getting crazy angles and stuff like that. So we'll purposely go and try and be at different spots on the track to see what we like best, and then we can send each other like this clip, that clip, see like what we like, what we don't like, and then we can also help critique the other person and like what they may not see that I could see, or vice versa. I may not like notice something where they pick it out like that I could have done better. And it's just, I'd say with media, the tough thing is a lot of it feels like it's competitive. Like there's a lot of people that want that shot, but don't want to share what that shot looks like because they're afraid of someone else
Mm.
making it look better or look cooler. But it's just really comes down to just right place, right time, and then just sharing the love for drifting, like not holding back and being like that. But I mean, you can't really expect everyone to be open and everything else because a lot of times the stuff, like some of the best stuff that you do hold to your chest is some of the stuff that like companies reach out to me and are be like, I want to work with you because of your eye. Like, and it's just certain things like that. But where I try and stand out is work ethic is also a big thing on me. So I'll get one shot, but I'll also get 500 more. So it's just one of those things where I'm out there, I'm doing 15, 20, 25,000 steps a day at these events, hustling, making sure that I get as much as I humanly possibly can and not just standing around because there's so many times where I've gotten shots just because I'm nonstop, and then I'll pan, and there's five, six, 10 photographers that are staring at their camera, just looking at what they just took, but they just missed 10 gnarly shots that they could have taken. So it's just one of those things where it's realizing, like, who to stick around, who to stick with, who to pay attention to, and just kind of try and make it a community of just keeping it cool. Is like just keep drifting fun is like one of my hoodies is just like don't like because a lot of times I'll like get in my head, I'll take things too seriously and like I'll
Yeah.
miss a shot and then like to me it's like the session is ruined. But then like I like someone comes up to me later in the day and it's just like in awe that I'm there in front of them. And I'm like, I forget that it's like there's so much more than just like me missing one shot. That it's like sometimes that one shot could be the driver, like the driver's having a really bad day. You send that to them and they're just like, dude, like you have no idea what this means to me. And it's just like
Yeah.
moments
Oh,
like that
absolutely.
where it's like, okay, like there's this is why we do what we do. And it's like everyone, you never know what people are going through. Everyone works like their butts off to even be able to go drifting. So there's some drivers that are like more well off. They can afford to pay for a bunch of tires and go to the events. So a lot of them, like, I wouldn't say they take it for granted, but it's not as like important to them to get that media. But there's sometimes you never know what driver just lost their dog or like went through hell that entire week just to get there for that one event on a Saturday where they had a blown motor on Monday and then they did everything they could to get to the event, got to the event, and then they get that one clip or one video that just makes it all worth it to them. And it's just like when that happens, it's like the best feeling as a media guy, like just knowing that you just kind of like gave them a reason to keep going is uh, just how it works for me. Like, and just keeps
No,
me
no, you're
positive
a hundred
about it.
percent. You're 100% on it. Any event that I drive at, I will look at as many albums that I can find of that event. Is there 600 photos? Cool. I will next, next, next. And if I have two photos in that album, save, keep watermark, and they go right up. Like, dude, the amount of hype you get for having your car on the internet and also being a nobody, 10 out of
Right.
10 would recommend. Like,
Yep.
it's the greatest thing. Now, we also know that just as expensive as drifting is, being someone who shoots FD, being someone who's so tightly knit in the photography community and motorsport, you didn't just come onto this set with a $10,000 camera bag of equipment and all this kind of stuff. When drifters are spending so much money on tires, car parts, painting their car one color, keeping the bumpers on their car, what are some cost-effective ways they can affordably jump into getting their own media stuff to be able to possibly capture some of their own content to just kind of learn it themselves if they're not able to reach out to media people just because they're just not at that event?
I mean, for the one of the best things is probably GoPros. Like, if you can get your own GoPro and you can just understand how to get those GoPro clips to your phone, that's probably going to be one of the easiest ways. Um, like one of my favorite views still is helmet cam. So it's just
Mm,
an easy way to just you have your camera on your head, you can reach it, you don't gotta have a remote, you don't have to have your phone open, you don't have to have a freaking a degree in doing photography. You literally just press a button, turn it on, drive, and then you can also go back and see if you're like causing bad habits for yourself with your hands or anything else. You can become a better driver because of it. And so it's just one of those things that's always going to help is having like especially an in-car camera of any kind because it's also a cool view that unless you're a driver or you're a passenger in the car, nobody knows what it looks like from the inside of the car. Like a lot of the people see the exterior shots and stuff like that, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Like they're pulling the handbrake, shifting, and just a lot of intensity. A lot of times you don't realize like how it looks when they are door to door and just like how crazy it gets in a split second where they could just go from having a great time to door or just getting too close, smacking, and then tie rod breaks, knuckles break, wheels fall off. Like it just gets absolutely wild. And having those cameras is just key on being able to just capture those moments and also see if you did something that you could fix and correct and not do it again, or just have a better understanding of how you can get that close and stay that close without your wheels falling off the
right.
car.
Right. No, and I mean we're both shooting this on GoPros ourselves. I've got my
Yep.
13. You've got your GoPro. So hey,
GoPro
GoPro,
12. Yep.
yeah. If you're watching this, just if you don't mind, send Barry a 12 or 13. Send me a 12 or 13 NBD. Just pop that bad boy in the mail. Totally cool. Won't tell anybody. It'd be great. But I think the advancements in photography equipment to be able to make it more cost effective and available to the masses, but also being rugged to be withstanding the abuse that we are as motorsports drivers. Even in the 10 years you've had digital adrenaline, what are some of the greatest advances in, I would say, motorsports based, photography advancements that have benefited the motorsport community? Weird,
I
weird
mean, I
question. I'm
would
sorry.
say
That was,
like
yeah, yeah.
for me, like I've gone through a whole lot of GoPros going back from GoPro 4. Like I think it was the GoPro 4 that I started with in the GoPro Session, which was like the little box camera. But those you couldn't change the lenses on.
Nope.
So one rock, one ding, one time it fell off a car and it was toast. So like
Done deal.
now with these, you can literally just, if a rock hits it, I have spare lenses in my bag. I just twist it off, put a new lens on, send it, good to go. Where like
Outstanding.
the older ones, once that happens, it's done. Like you've got to send it out to GoPro, have them warranty it, hopefully. And if they say that it was not under warranty, then you got to pay for another one, which is a whole nother like aspect of doing media that isn't really spoken about, is that it's expensive, like as a media guy to travel to events and stuff like that. So any time that you can like keep costs at a minimum is pretty much like where you're gonna be able to grow the most because you're not constantly spending two, three, four, $500 on a camera every single time that you go to an event. So like after years of doing it, I've kind of got my tool bag of cameras and stuff like that that I just know are gonna work. If I have any issues, I can fix it on the spot. If I'm in Utah, freaking like all the way across the country, that I can find a Best Buy and go there and buy a lens or
Yeah.
a battery or something like that. And I'm not just out thousands of dollars. Like I take my Sony like DSLR camera out there too, but like if something happens to that thing, it's
It's over.
you're kind of
It's yeah.
banking on another media guy having the same camera. Like if you forget a battery and you're out there, a lot of times you can't get those at a store around the corner. And so it's just kind of like for me, it was trial and error of figuring out what worked best for me. So that was like a couple years ago, I switched from Nikon to Sony because of the popularity of the Sony cameras where I could, like, if I needed a lens or if I needed a battery or anything that I knew that I could probably find somebody at an event, I could share a story and somebody would hit me up like, yo, I got you. Like, I have a spare.
Right.
And where with the old Nikon, everyone would just be like, why did you bring that? Like, and it's like, okay, like, thanks, but no thanks type of deal because you also couldn't get that stuff at Best Buy or anything. You'd have to order it from Nikon, and by that time the event's over. So it's
Well,
just,
you're bringing up a really good point that I never thought of because so imagine this. I take a stock G35. I break an axle hour one, hour two of an event. I'll go down the road to Advanced Auto Parts because 9 times out of 10, there's one within an hour or so and round trip it, swap it out, no problem. If a media person has an issue where, again, like you said, needs a battery, needs a lens replacement, there may not be a Best Buy. There may not be a mom and pop electronics store. So you're even more isolated to where this needs to work or my weekend really is dead. I
yep.
never thought about how much that plays into a factor to it.
Yeah, like when, like there's some events like when I go to Tennessee, the, there's, there's Walmart. It's like, that's your best bet of getting anything. And it's just, being smart. So like at events where it's in the middle of nowhere and say it's raining, I'm probably gonna leave my Sony in the truck and just I'll either use just GoPros or I'll use my phone. I'll do anything I can to keep rolling with the least amount of possible issues that I could have.
Mm.
But that's also just knowing, like, I've put myself in that position where I've been out somewhere with my Sony camera and it was wet and the camera got wet and screen goes black and your heart sinks. Like you have this $5,000 piece of equipment that can't do anything, but hey, I have a phone and this can still take photos and videos too. You just, it's whatever you have on you is the best piece of equipment you can have, but also be smart about it. Like you don't always need to have your top-notch equipment, especially during conditions like that. Now, like Utah is super hot, so I haven't had to deal with rain out there, but there's 1,000 rocks around every turn.
Yes.
So it's just that's a track that before I go out there, I have a couple extra lens filters that I always have on my camera at all times. Just make sure that you have an extra filter or two because you never know when a drift car is going to just dirt drop and hit the rocks and they just come a million miles an hour and take your whole lens out. And if you have a filter on there, you can just unscrew it, put a new one on, and you're good to go. So it's just knowing like stuff like that and being prepared is probably the smartest part of media, for me anyway. It's just
Yeah,
to keep going because you never know what shot you could get or what you can miss just in
yeah.
moments like that too.
I mean, this is the good portion right here. Ryan Sage, Formula Drift. If you're listening, can we please make the Riot Shield with a viewing lens the official, mascot of the media person for FD Utah round 7? I think you would appreciate it. A
Yep.
lot of other guys too. So hey, just let's spitball it sometime. But so you actually made another transition in your drifting, I would say, journey to where you went from a spectator doing some shooting, Digital Adrenaline, full on drifting photography company, and then you started driving. How did that come about? Let's dig into this.
So I was always a driver growing up. I grew up street racing in Philadelphia, so it was just one of those things that I always had the itch to do it. I just never had the right car, I'd say, to get into it or the right opportunity. So a couple of years ago, one of the drivers, the Club Loose drivers, posted an E46 for sale in his story, and it was just crazy good price. And it was someone who I dealt with a lot doing media for. So it's just like, so for me, what's your best price?
Yeah.
And right away he was just like, I would love to see you drive. Like what do you even want to pay for the car? And it's like we immediately just made a deal, and that was just one of the things that was just like, okay, like I've never really been like a big BMW guy, so I didn't have a lot of heart in the car. Like the FD, if I would have put it into a wall, I would have hated cars forever because that's like
Yup.
my baby, and I would have
Yup.
never done it again. The BMW, I'm like, I cannot wait to freaking rip the back end of this car off because I don't care. I want to do that, and so it was just like a no-brainer of it being a street car. I could get into it, low power, just nothing crazy, and just learn from the basics, drive it to the track with a couple tires, not burn up 16 tires and $1,000 in tires at an event, and just take 2 or 4 tires and do 20, 30 laps and pretty much figure it out. But kind of in between getting that, I also got the sim that I'm sitting
Mm-hmm.
in from Next Level Racing. So that was like the practice of like the muscle memory and everything else, understanding what I had to do in the drift car before I actually went out and did it, so I could at least have an idea of what I was doing. So like growing up, I played baseball
Right.
and I had a personal trainer for pitching and stuff like that. So to me, I just applied that like memory and that knowledge from that into drifting. So I got the sim, I got the whole sim set up with the wheel, the handbrake, the shifter, the pedals, everything to mimic what I was going to do in a real car before I went and smashed a real car into a wall. So that was pretty much like the step one of me really getting into drifting and like going and doing it, was just getting pretty damn good in the sim and then being confident enough to go out in a full blown car and doing it. Now, it's not 100% the same thing. Like my simulator doesn't have any motion to it. So there were some things that I had to get used to very quickly when I did start driving the
Yup.
E46 that I was not familiar with from the sim. But I will say a majority of what I knew, like going into drifting in real life, came from driving in the simulator, where it gave me that understanding of when I did this with the wheel, what the actual car would or should do, or what I was looking for it to do, and then be able to just get better from there. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times, like people don't really know how to explain like what to do in drifting. Everything happens so fast. So
Yes.
it's easy. Like you go to Club Loose and they tell you go faster, which yes, it it makes sense once it makes sense. But until it clicks that go faster is a dangerous tip of advice because
Yeah.
they told me that, but I didn't understand the go faster like in relevance to initiating at a certain point. So like yes, you go faster, but that going faster could also put you through a fence or into a wall because you're not paying attention to where you should initiate anymore. You're paying attention to just hitting 50, 60 miles an hour. And so it's just like figuring out that in the middle part of going faster and when to when to not go faster is what's not really talked about a lot other than like if you go to like East Coast Drift School and stuff like that, that's where you're going to learn those things. But a lot of people just want to go to an event and take their car to an event and try it, which I also did, but
Right.
after 2,000 hours of it in a sim. So I had a
Holy
really good
crap.
idea of what to do and what not to do already. So, like, when I would go and throw the car in, I already had an idea of what I did wrong when it didn't go well. Where a lot of other times they had, like, people have to do that for event after
Oh
event
my
after
god.
event and spend all this money learning at the event, where I got to do most of my learning at home, just sitting here chilling and driving tracks like English Town on the sim and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
just because I play in virtual reality. So like it's as close as you can get to drifting without having a motion sim rig and everything else. So it's a good amount to get into, like to buy the rig and buy all the equipment to get into, but it's nothing in compared to buying a car, buying tires, setting up the car for drifting, all those private days, paying for events, paying for fuel, paying for food, tolls, everything else. If you tow, like for the truck, the trailer, the easy pass, everything else, like it all adds up so fast that the sim actually can save you a lot of money. So the sim is kind of my gateway drug into actual drifting and also was the reason that like my first day drifting was at English Town on the kart track. By my, I'd say my seventh or eighth lap, I stopped spinning. I was able to, I wouldn't say link the whole track, but I didn't feel like an idiot by the end of it because I had an idea of what I had to do. So it all, like, it really paid for itself just in learning and then being able to like teach myself this stuff. And you also get to like drive with real life drivers that can also have you like follow them, which gives you reference points of when you should be initiating and stuff like that. So like this last weekend, I've never driven the road course ever. I've never drifted in the rain, and I've never drifted in S chassis. This weekend, I went to East Coast Drift School, showed up to take videos for Jeff Stoneback and Jimmy Oakes, and Jimmy Oakes just happened to put me in his car. Like it just happened. It wasn't even planned. We didn't talk about it ever. I was just standing there. He knew I always bring my helmet for ride-alongs, so I had everything with me. But he was just like, "Well, you want to try it?" It's just like, "Well, I'm not going to say no." Like as as quickly as I could say it, and he was just like, "Well, go grab your helmet." I went and grabbed my helmet and went and got in the car. First couple laps, I was very timid. Um, I didn't want to like hurt the car. I was more worried about over revving it instead of thinking about linking any turns or anything like that. And I come back around and Jimmy gave me a little pep talk like the car is built for it. Like just hit limiter, drive it hard. Like you know what you have to do. Like you've driven on the sim, we've driven on the sim together. Uh, how many videos I've posted, taken. A lot of my like drifting knowledge and experience comes from ride-alongs, where
Mm-hmm.
like I'll pay close attention to what the drivers are doing to see what they're doing with their hands, with their feet, and stuff like that. So I know the type of things to do in the car when I get in them.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it was my first time drifting the road course, first time drifting in the rain, first time drifting an S chassis, I still hit turn one, and I, I was going for the Gambler road course line. Like, as crazy as it is, like I was doing very well. No prior experience, and like even a Seto in the rain does not compute to drifting in the rain in real life. Like it is not. I have never felt anything so slick in my life behind the wheel of a real car, where
Right.
I'm in a 400 wheel horsepower SR20 B knuckle S chassis. And yes, I've driven like N style cars on the sim, but it's not comparable. Like the just being thrown in the car and having to also keep yourself in the seat without like you being thrown and then turning the wheel and that
Mm-hmm.
causing you to go off track, or just knowing when to initiate, where to put the car, stuff like that. Where because of how many times I've been in cars at E Town when they've driven wet, dry, everything else, I already had an idea of where to initiate. I'd just never been the one behind the wheel doing it. So it's just really cool to know that I
Right.
can get into a drift car that I've never been in before and turn laps. Like I was out there, I've never done road course. You have to be B group before they can hit tree turn. My first time drifting the road course, I'm flicking into tree turn. Like it was just absolutely wild to me that like my fourth lap, I'm not using handbrake to initiate a tree turn and like actually clutch kicking into it even in the rain,
Gah, gah,
and
gah.
was not like going into the sand barrels or anything. Like I didn't go off track, and it was just like, okay, like all of this stuff really has paid off and like has worked for me. And sometimes drivers like try my sim and they cannot do it because they're so used to that, like the feel of the car,
Mm-hmm.
knowing when it loads up to do this, or like when they do a certain thing with the pedals, that the car will react a certain way. Where in the sim, it's all really just hands and feet,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just kind of paying attention to what you're doing. It's not a feel type of thing. So to be able to combine those in real life was like next level, and just a whole different type of confidence boost. So like now when I get into my E46, I already know I'm going to probably break it
Mm-hmm.
immediately because I'm going to be driving it that much harder, just knowing that you have to commit when you're driving this stuff. Like because the E46 was like mine and stuff like that, I think
Mm-hmm.
I was holding back a lot of it, so I wasn't doing as well as I should have done. But after Jimmy telling me like, no, just like drive the car. And
Go.
then once
Go.
once that like set in, I was like, okay, like he told me to break it, I'm gonna break it. And but it was fine. Like everything worked. The harder I drove the car, the better I did. The more that I stayed committed on throttle, the more the car transitioned on its own, or
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't have to fight it or like try and correct steering that I could have done with pedal foot, like foot movements and stuff like that. So it's just
Right.
all realizing that all of that stuff is connected, and it's just about committing to it. So the driving in real life thing is just has evolved very quickly, but it's because of how much like drifting I've seen, edited, ridden in, like just all of it together,
Yeah.
it really helped with knowing what I had to do behind the wheel myself.
Before I ask my next question, I want to go back to something you mentioned that I've been doing math since I heard the number. I was really good at multiplication back when there were more buildings in the New York City skyline. Okay, so like that's how much I've fallen off. For those that were counting, 2,000 hours. So there's 24 hours in a day. Let's say there's 30 days in a month. That's only 720 hours. So that means even if you played a sim and didn't sleep for an entire month, you would barely have just over a third of the amount of hours you have. How long did it take you to clock 2,000 hours in your sim?
I'd probably say a year and a half.
God, that is intense. I mean, you want to talk about commitment? I mean, you're 20% of the way onto being to a master. 10,000 hours, you become a master. Something that's incredible. It, it's just wow.
Well, that like it turned into so I created my own server on Assetto. I have my own Discord channel because when I got into Assetto, the like to be able to find the cars and the tracks was an hour job in itself. So like by the time you found everything to download, you were already kind of over it. Like didn't even really get to enjoy anything anymore. Or like all of my buddies that were playing were like all getting off to go to sleep or go eat
Yeah,
dinner or whatever. So like the Discord channel was just a way for me to organize everything. And so I have like my own sections for car links, for track links, because I didn't want everyone that got into Assetto to have to deal with what I did and just like have to just scour the internet for hours and try and find all this stuff. So now like it's literally I try and make it as easy as possible for everyone. If you're getting onto the sim, you can go to my Discord, you can download anything that I have on the server right there. If you have any questions, there's tabs in there where you can ask questions. There's wheel setups that you can go in. You can just download them. You can hit up, like, I think I have like 2,700 people in my Discord channel now that are all sim drivers. So you can ask anyone if you have a certain wheel or a certain pedal setup or certain something that isn't working for you. You can always hit up everyone and just be like, hey, does someone have something that may work better for me? Instead of just sitting there struggling, because for me, a lot of it was setting up like the settings on the wheel
yes,
to make it feel
yes.
right. So that was like a 3 month process in its own. Is just getting the wheel settings and the million Assetto settings all figured out. So now you can literally just go in, click one thing, and you have all my settings. And
Yeah,
it's just like stuff like that is what I wanted to be able to provide. And then it was like I would go and I'd want to get on with my boys, and there'd be a bunch of like normal tracks with like cars that didn't have any grippy tires, but like I like to go fast. Like to I don't like handbrake entries, so I try
no.
and find cars that are good with like like really good with flicking into turn one, stuff like that.
Snappy
And
transitions.
yep, so I would
Yeah,
always like just try and find the newest and greatest cars and like all the coolest tracks that I've always wanted to drive in real life. So like I'll always have like tracks in Japan on my server or stuff like that. That's always like something that's a challenge, but also fun. That's not just like you're just letting go of the wheel and driving. Like I'm trying to do 100 plus into entry. Like I have a reset button. Why would I not want to go over 100 miles an hour and just crash and then figure out how to not crash going over 100 miles an hour? So it's just, I always try and have something crazy on my server, and it just turned into like, now I have FD drivers that get on my server almost every night. Um, every Tuesday, I hold Tandem Tuesday. Then it's just 20 to 30 absolute best drivers on the Seto that just go door to door for hours on end. And we all just get to just hang out on my Discord channel in the group chat and just talk, have fun. Like it's just a way to hang out while we're all still at home too. But like we all still get to drift together. So it's just cool. Like, and that's just how it turned into 2,000 hours. Was it
Yeah.
just was the funnest thing for me to do at home while also learning how to drive.
Well, there's also a media contingent to Assetto because you post a
Yep.
lot of your Tandem Tuesdays on the Digital Adrenaline stuff. I see it even on your personal, some of your buddies. And I mean, again, you'll be on there with Jimmy, you'll be on there with Adam, you'll be on there with Ben Hobson. The guys will just jump in their jammy jams and
Yep.
be yanking handbrake and talking mess in the Discord. And some of the footage is truly just as incredible as the real life stuff. What made you want to start, showcasing the stuff from Assetto on top of doing your real life drifting content?
I mean, it's kind of in the name, digital adrenaline. Like it's just I didn't want it to
Okay,
stick
all right, yeah.
to just real life. Like I also wanted to show that aspect, but what also kind of sparked that is I use Assetto. Like if I'm going to a new track, I'll use Assetto and I'll act as media while other people are driving and try different spots on the track to get an idea of where I want to be when I go there in real life. So like I can do whatever, like I have an infinite amount of ability on Assetto to just wherever my creativity will take me to try and already have an idea of what I want to get when I go to the track in real life without having to just waste time or energy getting to certain spots that might not be that good, where because of a setup, I already know it's a gnarly spot. So I can just go right there. I already know what shots I want to take and then just go from there. And just from the feedback of people, like I started just putting it on my stories, and then people would just be like, "What? Like, is this real or is this a setup?" And then I'm like, "Okay, like there's something here that
Yeah.
I can work with because it's entertaining and captivating that a lot of people just don't like they don't expect it. So it's just one of those things where it's cool to be able to promote a video game along with real life, but it still ties into everything that I do for drift media and stuff like that. So it's all still related. It's just we get to do it at home whenever we want, and you don't have to be standing out in the rain or 120 degree with the track like being 120 degrees and just everything else. You can just grab a keyboard, fly wherever you want on the track, and just get media. And then like it would just that's I also figured out how to like mimic my swivel mount videos on Assetto, and that was just a whole other thing where nobody, I guess, realized that you could take like the head motion where it's already panning and looking
Mm-hmm.
where like the chase car is looking at the lead car, where that's what I try and get my swivel mount to do. So I could just figured out how to move that camera from the driver's seat onto the roof. And then that's how those videos
Oh.
came to fruition from a setup.
So okay, so I have a situation in my head. I'm a new photographer that wants to shoot drifting. I can download a setup. In some cases, if you get it from a buddy, it could be free. Would they be allowed to join in your lobby on these Tandem Tuesdays as a photographer? Is that a possibility that you'd be able to make that happen?
So there's actually guys that do join like my Tandem Tuesday servers that are the FPV pilots, like drone pilots in real life. And there's drone apps for Assetto that they actually can fly and chase all of us while we're driving around, and they can practice being an FPV pilot while
Oh,
also chasing drift cars instead of just having to like drive to a park and drive around for no reason. So they can also get the muscle memory of knowing where they want to like put the drone to chase these cars before the event even happens. So yeah, 100%. You can just jump on and act as media and do anything. Like really, it's all whatever your mind will take you because there's just endless like possibilities at this point for a setup.
You just went like and did a full Leonardo DiCaprio, it incepted me, dream in a dream, and I mean, it's not just for getting good at tandems, getting good at running a good line, learning new tracks. I mean, I didn't understand how many layers that program had and how many opportunities it was to really be a true sim for more than just driving. Now, obviously, coming from the sim, you have got behind the wheel a couple of times. Being a newer drifter, what's the next hurdle that you're looking to overcome with IRL in real life drifting?
I would say just committing to knowing that any lap you could just wrap the car up into a wall, but also being able to get out of the car without like giving up on everything and just realizing that there's people watching, there's people that may be looking up to you. And if you can get out, like if you do go into the wall, fix the car. Like if the amount of times that I've seen drivers wreck and then go back to the pits, fix their car, and be back out the next session, it's like such a cool freaking moment to be a part of, especially to get like media of that before and after. Like my one buddy James from Club Loose with his Mustang, I was riding with him and we hit another driver who like parked it on track and hit him at like 55 miles an hour on the GPS of my GoPro.
Wow.
We were flying. So like it demolished the whole rear end of the car. It was independent rear suspension from a Cobra Mustang, which normally you're like, well, we're done. But
Yeah.
we're sitting there on the side of the track waiting for the tow truck, and he happens to hit up a buddy who lived 15 minutes from the track who had the entire setup. And instead of just giving up, I was like, let's get the car back to the pits. We'll get in my truck. We drove out there. We got the entire IRS setup from a Cobra Mustang, loaded it in my truck, drove it back to the track, got the car all fixed, missed 2 sessions, but he was back out for the last session of the day. And like that was something that it happened 3 years ago. We talk about it practically every time that we see each other. Like it's
Right.
just something that it's you can't explain the feeling of like accomplishment and everything else when you can just go and do that. Like no, in every like case and scenario, you're not going to have $1,000 to just go and spend on a whole new like rear end setup like that. But when you can fix it, you never know like how many people or who you're going to inspire to be like, okay, like this is a really cool thing to get into. Like, how do I get into drifting? Because this is like the community that I want to be a part of, where I've done media at drag race events where I will tell you it is not like that. Like if the people that have their parts, that's their parts. They don't care if you
Mm-hmm.
offer them another
Yup.
car. Like that's their spares. They're not giving them up. Where drifting, you could walk the pits, and if someone has a spare motor, transmission, differential, tie rods, knuckles, whatever, if you need it, someone is going to be there to help you out and to get you running again just because of everyone knows like the feeling of having a broken car and having
Yep.
a good time having a not broken car. So I think that's like the big part for me is just getting out there in my own E46 and not being afraid to break it and driving it as hard as I can, knowing that whatever happens, happens, but to just enjoy every moment of it. Even like when it breaks, it sucks, but to be able to just get it back together and go again is like what I like strive for.
Right.
As weird as it sounds, but like I'm like pretty excited to end up being able to put the car on the wall. And if I do hit the back of the car too hard and the front end goes into it, like so be it. It's a learning experience, but I'd rather do that than be afraid and timid and just not even try it. You know what I mean? So it's just
Absolutely.
like that's that's probably like what I look forward to most, just because I'm weird like that, and also don't mind wrecking my BMW. So
Everyone defines goals differently. That's the whole reason why I was curious to get into your brain. Now, on this show, I like to be able to jump into like certain tuning aspects of vehicles that we can talk a little bit more in depth to just kind of crack some myths or just get a better understanding. I want to get in more with you though, as far as like basic tuning elements of photography when it comes to drifting motorsport. I'm not. I know there's plenty of other stuff out there for people to learn this shutter speed, this f stop, and all that kind of stuff. What are some of the basics if I have never picked up a camera that I can start to do to kind of tune my camera, or techniques that could make me at least get more comfortable at shooting drifting as a grassroots motorsport?
I would say like don't be afraid to try different settings. Um, that was probably my biggest setback when I started was I would just shoot at the highest shutter speed that I could so that I could get the whole car in focus. But the like you could tell the wheels weren't spinning. Like it would look like the car was sitting still even though it was going 60 miles an hour. But realizing that you could like slow down the shutter speed if you just learn how to pan and follow the car at the speed that it's going by. So I would say more so than settings, just trying to get comfortable with being able to follow the cars with the camera at the same speed that they're going is going to put you in a better spot than having like a certain setting because
Right,
it all changes depending on lighting, on weather, how blue the sky is, how not blue the sky is, how bright the car is, how dark the car is. Like it's tough to say because there's not going to be a setting that works for everything. Like there just
right,
won't be. But by trying different things, by trying slower shutter speeds and moving faster with the camera, it's going to give you a different effect than having a slower shutter speed and moving slower. So it's just getting comfortable and trying something that you want to see. Like, uh, probably the hardest thing is to not like try and replicate exactly what someone else is doing
yeah,
and like get stuck trying to like I want to be like I want the same shot as Larry Chen. Like yes, that's like a cool goal to have, but you're going to get stuck in that same spot trying to do the same thing over and over where you're going to miss a whole lot of learning opportunity by trying different things. Who cares if the car is out of focus for one lap? They're going to do another lap. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be another car to shoot. There's going to be another spot to shoot from. So there's always this like I try and set like when I go to a track, like when I go to Englishtown, there's so many different places for media to be. Like you can be along the fence in 20 different spots. There's five, six, seven different media boxes that you can go out to and shoot from. I always try and set like a 15-minute timer so that I'm never in the same spot for more than 15 minutes. And like if
mm,
I'm in the same spot for 15 minutes, like the media just gets boring even to me like going through it editing. I'm like, damn, like I should have like went somewhere else and at least mixed it up to at least like show different aspects of the track or the drifting or anything else because you never know like what you're missing if you don't try it. Like, and once you do, like now I've been doing it so long, Englishtown's my home track. I've shot at every single spot there is to shoot from in Englishtown. Like I already know what every spot like is going to offer me as media and what I want to see the drivers doing. So I'm already like super comfortable wherever I go to Englishtown. I already know what settings I want because I've tried them all. Like I have taken 3,000 photos an event just at all sorts of different f-stops, different shutter speeds, different everything just and going through and editing them myself is also what has shown me like okay, I like that, okay, I don't like that, like, and the stuff I don't like I don't do again. And
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
just like just never be afraid of trying something new because even if you're not comfortable shooting like low shutter speeds and panning, like those are going to be some of the most rewarding shots when you do get it. Like I've probably missed thousands of just trying and trying and trying and trying to get the perfect like panning shot, but and like it's discouraging when you don't do it, but like when you do, it's the coolest feeling knowing that like you just froze that moment in
Yeah.
time forever,
Yeah.
like and you never know how many people like you could just get the shot of a lifetime and make a print of it and then it just paid for your whole day driving to the track and back or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you just never know, and it's just try new stuff, like literally, and don't be afraid, like to just use whatever camera equipment you have on you. I've heard so many people talk trash on phones, but some of my most viral stuff was taken with a phone just because that's what was like I had the ability to pull out and turn on the quickest. One thing that sticks in my head is when I went to Mid Pond in Alabama. I was riding along in one of the cars and the GoPro that I was using, the battery died. I didn't have another battery in my pocket, so there was nothing else that I could do other than pull out my phone. And I pull out my phone, and that video is still going, like still getting shared, and that got over 2 million views just from like a phone video, which
Gosh.
at the time pissed me off. I'm like, I have $5,000 in camera equipment and like my phone is the thing that blows up, but it's like you never know what is going to do it. And it's like more so just sharing it with the world more so than like being the coolest guy at the track, I'd say.
No, absolutely. Before we go and start talking about how we can learn more about how to find you and all these different places that we can interact with you, I'm really, really, really curious. You've done FD as a photographer for a couple of seasons, and as a team photographer, you mentioned in one season of FD, approximately how many still shots have you taken, and or hours of video? Like it's a ballpark. Yeah, I know this is a big one. This is the big one.
So since I've started doing FD, I've been more so a video guy.
Okay.
Um, so, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
My issue is how many cameras I have. So I have 6 GoPros, and then I also have my Sony camera, and then also my phone for like random story stuff and things like that. So typically per event, like each FD event, so far I've done Pro Spec pretty much
Okay.
for seasons long, which is 4 events, and each event I probably get at least 200 hours of video. So anywhere from 800 to 1,000 hours a season is like an average number. I would say, because for like Tommy Lemaire last year, I probably took double that because
Wow.
I had 1 to 2 cameras on his roof. I had a 360 camera in the car. I had a camera in his wheel well. I had a pedal camera going so he could see what his feet were doing. And then I also was hopping on my pit bike and freaking flying out to wherever I could on track and taking exterior videos at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably say I have about 3 to 4 thousand, maybe even 5,000 hours just of Tommy from last year, which have like it's it's
Four
tough
events.
to like understand how much footage that is because it's like each lap is only typically like 40 seconds to a minute long.
Right.
So the cameras are running about anywhere from 8 to 20 minutes per lap because I have to turn the camera on and then go somewhere else and do whatever else while he sits on grid, goes in the burnout box, pulls up. If he even gets to drive or if they pull him back for whatever reason, like there's times where I have half an hour of just nothing that is also a big time suck of after the event going through and having to like sift through all the footage just to find the good stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like I have so many hours of not drifting and just being able to put like a 40-second video together out of an hour footage is
Yeah.
sometimes tough just because you never know like what's good, what's not until you sit there and actually watch what's even happening. Unless like the only times that I really know are when I'm next to the driver when they come back and they're like, no, that lap was like fire. So I'm like, okay, I set the time, like I note the time, whatever time it was, or I'll immediately, like on the newer GoPros, you can highlight like footage and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So as soon as it's like I see that they're hype, I pull the camera off and I go there and I just highlight that so then later on I can just go back to it. Otherwise, like there's so much stuff that just gets lost. And during off season I happen like I just find it and it's like, okay, well this would have been gold 4 months ago, but it's just going through all that stuff just because of how many hours and stuff like that that I have just GoPros sitting somewhere because I use 256 gigabyte cards
Mm-hmm.
and I have 16 GoPro batteries that I am constantly just swapping in and out, in and out. So there's I have so much footage. Like I always joke about it. I could quit doing media and nobody would even know because I still have so many videos that I
Man.
could go back.
Gosh, yeah, it would just be wild. But no, I just that number again. You've really put into perspective how intense being a drift photographer is, and just the commitment that it takes. Really does rival, if not exceed, in certain cases, what a driver has to do to be able to progress and become better as a driver. With that, sir, dude, this was a blasty blast. We went to the moon and back. I had a lot of fun, man. Seriously.
Yeah,
Let's
this was
talk
cool.
about how do we find the Flash, Barry Allen, on social media, and I want you to plug your Assetto Corsa Discord stuff as well, so people can at least get a way to find that.
So it's all like the easiest way to find it is all my Instagram. That's where you're going to find pretty much everything. And that's just at digital.adrenaline. Um, if you can't find anything, I always have links under my bio that you can go to my website. And on my website, you can find my Discord. From my Discord, you can find everything else. But on Instagram, Digital Adrenaline, Facebook, Digital Adrenaline, YouTube, Digital Adrenaline, Discord, Digital Adrenaline, Assetto Corsa, Digital Adrenaline. So, like, as long as you search Digital Adrenaline anywhere, you can search it on Google, you're going to find me. I've done pretty well at trying to stick to that just namesake for making everything as easy as possible to find. And like, so what I'm doing now is I'm finally like breaking into YouTube wide, like full
Mm-hmm.
screen stuff. So I'm trying to spend, I already got the vertical video, the short video stuff pretty down like for reels and stuff like that. So I'm trying to now tie that in to YouTube and make stuff that can be watched at home on the TV or when you're out at a track like or at the Airbnb and you want to hang
Mm-hmm.
out after an event. I'm trying to get better at posting stuff on YouTube like wide format because I take everything 4K wide and then I make it all vertical. So I have the option to do it all. Just now utilizing it on YouTube, which I'm posting there every day now. So that's just kind of my thing. I try and post every day just so everyone has something to look forward to somewhere of
Mm-hmm.
mine. And you never know if I'm going to post you or not. There are certain drivers that hit me up and they'll ask like if I could make them footage or whatever. So I'm always open to that. It's just respect my time. It's a lot to go through. Like, yes, I'm quick at making the videos, but a lot of times it takes me like hours to just find the stuff. So it's just stuff like that. But if drivers ever want footage, just hit me up. Don't be afraid to shoot me a message. I'm running my Instagram. I'm the only one running my Instagram. I answer every message. Um, it's not like there's someone running my page or you ever have to worry about not talking to me. It's always going to be me. I'm always going to answer. I don't care how many followers I have. I'll still I have no problem talking to anybody, especially about drifting.
Staying personal, staying humble, and just being a good person. I think that's probably the consensus of this entire show. So again, sir, thank you so much to all my viewers. I am at D with a Comic on Instagram. You can find me Chris DeBoard on Facebook. I want to take a chance to also shout out our sponsors again: Stage Wheels, Zeknova Tires, and Velocita USA Safety Equipment. You guys have been watching the Dirt Drop. Keep following us on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, and please share. We will see you on the next Dirt Drop. And that's it. And we're done.